Hey everybody, welcome back. Reading the Quran. Hoping you're having a good day. I saw a troubling thing on Twitter, so I got really inspired to read the Quran, kind of cleanse my mind. So let's begin. Alright, Surah 70, titled Ma'arij. Then you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan al-rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. It says also it's titled, or the ways of ascent. Okay. A questioner asked about a penalty to befall the unbelievers, the which there is none to ward off a penalty from Allah, Lord of the ways of ascent. That's a new name. The angels and the Spirit ascend unto him in a day, the measure whereof is as 50,000 years. Therefore, do thou hold patience, a patience of beautiful contentment. They see the day indeed as far off event, but we see it quite near, the day that the sky will be like molten brass. And what color is that? Steel gets like a hot orange red. What color does brass turn? And the mountains will be like wool. And no friend will ask after a friend. Though they will be put in sight of each other, the sinner's desire would that he could redeem himself from the penalty of that day by sacrificing his children. They will be put inside of each other. The sinner's desires would that he could redeem himself from the penalty of that day by sacrificing his children. So that it's going to be so bad that people will want to escape their punishment so bad, so much, that they will be willing to have their own kid put in their place. That's how awful it will be. His wife and his brother, his kindred who sheltered him, and all that is on earth, so it could deliver him. I was right. Yeah, there's people today who willingly sacrifice their family and their children for their own personal gain, so I wouldn't be surprised. By no means, for it would be the fire of hell, plucking out his being right to the skull, inviting all such as turn their backs and turn away their faces from the right, and collect wealth and hide it from use. And collect wealth and hide it from use, right? Truly man was created very impatient. Yeah, I kind of get impulsive sometimes. I really do. Fretful when evil touches him, and cheap when good reaches him. Not so those devoted to prayer. Those who remain steadfast to their prayer, and those in whose wealth is a recognized right, for the needy who asks and him who is prevented for some reason from asking, and those who hold to the truth of the day of judgment, and those who fear the displeasure of their Lord, for their Lord's displeasure is the opposite of peace and tranquility, and those who guard their chastity, except with their wives and the captives whom the right hand possesses for them. They are not to be blamed, but those who trespass beyond this are transgressors, and those who respect their trusts and covenants, and those who stand firm in their testimonies, and those who guard the sacredness of their worship, such will be the honored ones in the garden of bliss. Now, what is the matter with the unbelievers that they rush madly before thee, from the right and from the left in crowds? Does every man of them long to enter the garden of bliss? By no means, for we have created them out of the base matter they know. Now I do call witness the Lord of all points in the east and the west, that we can certainly substitute for them better men than they. Yes, substitution. That is actually really potent. If someone was to tell me, well, actually I did kind of learn that in a job once, where someone clearly showed me, like, you work hard, but if you're not happy with what you're making, they literally implied I can fire you and hire someone for much less. But that's for less. And if someone says better, it's like, oh, it's even more potent because you realize your status. There's like these different ways. But the Quran telling you that you will be replaced, I think I've mentioned this before, that's actually very unique to a religious text. Because it's letting you know you're not the diamond in the rough, right? There's something that can be put ahead of you, so act accordingly and don't toot your own horn. Substitute for them better men than they, and we are not to be defeated in our plan. That's hopeful, especially when there's so much degeneracy in the world. You think, man, it's like they censor people for everything. They kick you off every platform for simple views, yet they can't scrape child pornography from the internet. And it hurts because you're like, they censor simple topics. Like if you start to talk about how you don't want to be in the group of degenerates and you start, addressing that behavior, they'll censor you for hate speech. But other deeds that are really bad, those are allowed to exist. And you're like, how does this make sense? Because more people will think that's the correct behavior and they'll have less access to, better role models. And you think that, and I think others too, that that's going to create an even more toxic world, and you feel for your future generations. But here, it tells you in a kind of a comforting way, although a potent way, we are not to be defeated in our plan. So the creator's like, no, my plan is my plan. And it may look like they're winning, but they're not going to be winning forever. So leave them to plunge in vain, talk and play about, until they encounter that day of theirs which they have been promised. The day whereon they will issue from their sepulchres in sudden haste as if they were rushing to a goal. Post fixed for them, their eyes lowered in dejection, ignominy covering them all over. Such is the day the which they are promised. Potent and powerful indeed. Potent and powerful indeed. Substitute for them better men than they. We are not to be defeated in our plan. You know what? I needed to see that today. I really did. I saw something so terrible on Twitter. A woman was teaching her toddler how to be a stripper. And as you know, my mom was in that business, and I actively now try to help people realize how bad that mode of life is and how dangerous it is and how unsatisfying it is. And it was sad to see so many people enjoying what they were looking at, and it was breaking my heart. And yet that's allowed, but simple people like David Icke, who are kind of kooky a little bit sometimes, but sometimes right and sometimes wrong, they get completely banned. And it's like, what's going on in this world? That's how you know the Quran is it's like the Constitution, but the Constitution is not. It's like a living document. It's supposed to be a living document where it survives in every generation and adjusts to the context. The Quran is like that. It's starting to really show like that. Because, yeah, the tafsir, right, that tells you, it's talking specifically about this. But if you think about it, it spans through time as well, right? And it's amazing that I get to read something like that today. Because it's just right there, And those who respect their trusts and covenants stand firm in their testimonies. There's a lot of nations that don't hold their covenants, and a lot of people who they're quick to jump into an oath and then they don't know what it entails, and then they fail. And then they break it and break it and break it. And that's why I take oaths so serious. Testimony is very serious. Because once you give your word, that's it. And 18, and collect wealth and hide it from use. Man, you see, that's applied to, especially now. So many people hoarding. This is a very powerful section. Lord of the ways of ascent. Very powerful, man.